Hey folks, welcome back to Marta's Magical Mystery Class. This time we talk about outlining, part 2, specifically tools and resources to help you outline. Last time I talked a little more theoretically about outlining. Next time we jump into drafting, and we'll be in drafting for a long time. But here we go. So this is, I'm going to have to look down and refer to some notes because I feel like I have to stay a little better on track if I'm going to recommend a whole lot of very specific things to you all. First things first, as I said last time, some people feel like they need more structure going into the thing. Some people feel like they need less structure going into the thing. Some of you will be finding out how much structure, in fact, a lot of you will probably be finding out how much structure you need as you wade into the thing. That was certainly my experience. I thought I needed a lot more structure than I ended up being happy with. So I'm going to tell you, first of all, if you want to travel light and you don't feel like you want to learn a whole bunch of stuff about the craft of writing, or you don't want to put a lot of effort into outlining and structure and kind of pre-writing and metacritical stuff around your book, that's all okay. I assumed when I started out 5 years ago or so to write the first novel, that I got seriously into it, that there was going to be one way to scale the mountain. There's not. There's a bunch of ways, a bunch of mountains. So by all means, find your own path. If you want to travel light, if you want just some basic advice, somebody you can refer to when you just need a little inspiration, you're not sure about what the next step might be or what maybe you're trying to articulate to yourself, I highly recommend Walter Mosley's two very short craft books. And I quoted Mosley extensively when I was doing the Mosley and Asimov back and forth during the first outlining video. But Walter Mosley's This Year You Write Your Novel and Walter Mosley's Elements of Fiction. They're both very short. They would be terrific books. If you feel like you just need a little something and you want to go from there, you can even stop watching these and just be on your merry way drafting. If you feel like you need more than that, specifically if you feel like you need company on your writing journey, I talked a little bit on this channel about Felicia Rose Chavez's book, The Anti-Racist Writing Workshop. I highly recommend getting a hold of Chavez's book before you get into a workshop setting, because it will give you a lot of things to think about, a lot of ways to challenge the standard workshop model, which does not work for a lot of people. It never really worked for me. The best workshops I was in did not follow standard workshop rules when I was a graduate student and since graduate school. The other workshop recommendation I have is to look for folks who are doing Amherst Writers and Artists Method workshops. You'll also just hear Amherst Method workshops. That approach was developed by Pat Schneider about 20 years ago. There's lots of good information about Amherst workshops online. I highly recommend the Amherst approach as well. So if you want just a little advice, Walter Mosley's craft books are great. If you want a little company on the journey, find a workshop, but be careful going in. I think, I will say it, a lot of workshops, especially a lot of workshops that are geared at beginning writers, they have, the folks running it, even with the best of intentions, have the idea that everybody has to bring the tough love. Everybody has to be as brutal as possible on the writer because that's how you improve. That didn't improve anything for me. That shut me up for years and years. And I've seen it silence a lot of other writers. So if you're going into a workshop feel things out, talk to other people who are part of the workshop, find out what the attitude and climate is. Is it a workshop where people are encouraging each other to grow and change and learn more about writing? Or is it just gladiators in the arena? Yeah. There can be a lot of good in a workshop setting. There can be a lot of damage in a workshop setting. So again, I highly recommend Felicia Rose Chavez's book, The Anti-Racist Writers Workshop, The Anti-Racist Writing Workshop, and the Amherst Workshop Method. Moving on into other tools. Scrivener is a big software package that's out there. It's, I would say, mid-range in expense. I think the last time I checked, a copy of Scrivener was around $50, but it's hard to use. So then you're gonna pay $50 to a couple $100 to take a class to learn to use it. But if you are very technologically inclined, go Scrivener, go find it. It's apparently like having a writing buddy that you program. So that's an option for you. I have used Evernote a little bit. I've mentioned Evernote before. It's not an outlining program as much as it is a note-taking program you can use when you're online, and you can gather bits and pieces of things, references, images. I have another friend who's pretty devoted to Evernote, so that's an option. This is a shout out to Ryan Laws, who I don't think is watching the Mystery Channel. I think Ryan is watching my Sci-Fi channel. Ryan has tried 2 different novel writing apps, Ulysses and Dabble, and says they both have their merits. He also recommends, for those of you who prefer a low-tech approach, note cards and graph paper, and it sounds like he's very interested in finding out if anybody has a preference for one over the other of the low-tech approaches. So those are tips and tricks and tools. You can also just Google outline my novel, outline your novel. I had a really hilarious experience this morning. I went into my Kindle and I thought, I'm just gonna look one more time, I'm gonna search. I went into my search Kindle bookstore, outline your novel. I gotta tell you, the stuff that comes up is fascinating. I got book recommendations that included titles called Warrior Goddess Training and Empire of Pain. All of this seems appropriate to me, to the enterprise of outlining and eventually writing a first novel. So, Warrior Goddess Training in the Empire of Pain. Yeah. I was pleased to see, and I think ultimately, I told you I would try to see if I could find an outlining book that didn't send me running for the hills. I would recommend Janice Hardy's books. She's a young adult, award-winning young adult author. She's done some adult titles as well. She runs a website called Fiction University, and I spelunked around for a while this morning in Fiction University's outlining section. She's had lots of different people contribute essays. There's lots of different approaches. I think wherever you're at on the structured writer versus intuitive writer, that would be the plotter, pantser continuum, you'll find something in Janice Hardy's Fiction University that will speak to you. I had a chuckle over the term planzer, which is used for folks who find themselves more in the middle. So, these are, I didn't know any of this when I started writing my first novel. I just figured I'd taken a lot of writing classes, I'd figure it out as I went. What I ended up settling on, and what I'm going to talk to you about now, and then I'll do a couple of quick book recommendations at the end, what I realized as I got into the novel, however much outlining I had or hadn't done at the outset, I was casting a few scenes ahead, and so I would do a few scenes and then I'd have to regroup and do a few more scenes. what I realized is when I needed to come back and regroup, I didn't want to have to stop and reread. I wasn't ready for an editing step yet. I was still very much in drafting. And so I put together a tool that I have refined a little bit since that has worked extremely well for me, that is neither terribly high tech nor terribly low tech. I popped open a spreadsheet, a blank spreadsheet in Microsoft Excel, and I now keep a spreadsheet of columns, and I keep track of the chapter and then the scenes within the chapter, and I basically give each scene in the novel a title. I don't title the chapters so much, although I've considered that. But I give each scene a basic title. If I need more information about the plot point that that scene addresses, I have another box where I can put that in. I make a cast list of the characters that are in that scene. I make notes on the setting of that scene. I am a nut for setting and world building, and so I always want to make sure that there are places I'm returning everybody to, because it took a lot of time designing those places, and yeah, we're going to show those off. We're going to have fun in there. And then I make any other notes that seem relevant. I run a little timeline. That was one of the adaptations I've done now with this third project, is that I'm running a little timeline down the side also. So the chapters, they're just chapter 1 and then like scene ABC. I rarely have more than 3 scenes in a chapter. Chapter 2, scene AB. I have found just putting all that in a spreadsheet, there's no formulas, I don't do anything that fancy, has been huge help to me when I go to review, when I go to figure out, okay, so I'm past the halfway point, I need to go forward from here, what's next? Well, I go back and look at what I've done the last few scenes, and usually looking at that will help jog loose. Oh, right, that's what I need to do next. I promised recommendations here at the end. So I'm going to say I had given a previous book anticipation. My new book anticipation is Jessie Q. Sutanto's Dial A for Aunties, which has just come out and just downloaded to my Kindle. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm very excited. I'm also very excited about this book that I have also just downloaded to my Kindle, that I have dug into a little bit. That's very, very cool. This is the Mystery Writers of America Handbook. This is a craft of writing anthology, a craft anthology that gets updated about every 10 years maybe, and it's just called How to Write a Mystery. But it is full of all kinds of cool stuff. They didn't do, the thing that's not cool, they didn't do a table of contents at the front. So you kind of end up fishing through the index. Or at least there's not a table of contents in the Kindle book. You end up fishing through the index if you're looking for special topics. But there are, it really does a nice job of covering the gamut of mystery writing, all the way from your hardcore, hard-boiled mysteries, your literary mysteries, to cozy mysteries, to kid and YA mysteries, which is a field that is growing and booming. So, all kinds of fun there. Dial A for Aunties, I anticipate all kinds of fun there. And good luck checking out the tools I've mentioned. I will also put those in the notes about the video. Next time we draft. See you soon. Bye-bye.